Why hello there! As per popular demand, we will be looking at Protection Warrior in a more detailed and advanced way. But don't worry, you'll still be learning about talents, gear, rotation, and tips and tricks so you can take into raids and Mythic Plus and do even better with your Protection Warrior. Because here at Marcelian&Life, we strive to be better. We're going to start with the talents. The talents haven't changed from what most people use, so keeping in tune with the video being a bit more insightful than our basic guide, I'll explain our choices, and if you think I might have missed something, please let us know in the comments down below. First row we take Into the Fray. Haste is a major component of our toolkit, performing well, especially getting into more high-end content. The nature of this talent makes it possible to keep the stacks even if there are friendlies around, since they will contribute to it, as such giving you 100% uptime on all stacks when in a fight. Next row, Crackling Thunder is still the best option. The added range on Thunderclap makes it so you probably won't find yourself in a situation where a faraway mob won't be hit by this. Keeping aggro in an AoE situation is very important, and having this talent can save you from being in a situation where you need to use revenge to keep up those ads that you might have missed, which can be very punishing in higher keys. Third row, Unstoppable Force. It's no surprise at this point that Prot warriors have amazing damage output, especially in AoE scenarios, and one of the major, if not the biggest contributor, is this talent right here. The 100% extra damage is definitely important, but the most important one is the cooldown reduction it has, making it so it can be cast every other GCD when in Avatar. Damage is important to tanks, and we will discuss that in a bit. A quick note here, the initial nerf that was announced for Prot warriors to this talent, reducing the bonus damage it offers to 70% down from 100%, has been tested on the PTR. The cool people on the Skyhole Discord channel posted a sim to show the damage loss is about 6% in single target and 10% in AoE. Although the damage loss is a bummer, the amount of it won't be enough to matter, in my opinion, since the point of the damage is to keep aggro on you. After 8.2 comes out and we have more parses to analyze and things change, I will make sure to update you guys down in the comments. Level 60 row, a clear winner is Bolster, which turns your last stand into a beast, giving it the ability to block all attacks for its duration. I have seen high-end Prot warriors fiddle around with Never Surrender by also stacking the Bloodsport Azerite trait. But no matter how I look at it, the ability to block all attacks for 15 seconds on a cooldown reduced by 1 minute, and additionally by anger management, rage spending, is far superior. Next row is a personal beef of mine. In most situations, and by default, you take Rumbling Earth. The cooldown reduction to Shockwave is very good, especially when fighting tough packs that take a long time to die and have an uninterruptible cast. Yes, sometimes you want to stun to prevent certain casts from going through, like pesky Motherload Trash. I personally like Stormbolt as an alternative. It gives you one extra stun to use for pretty much the same reasons. This is amazing when running with pugs, since people tend to either miss or ignore interrupts and CC, which gives you an option to compensate. This usually happens in lower keys, and in lower keys mobs will die too fast for you to cast Shockwave twice on the same pack. Shockwave will usually come back off cooldown by the time you need it for the next pack anyway. Level 90 row, Booming Voice all the way, for most scenarios, is the most reliable option since you can generate rage on demand and use it immediately for Ignore Pain or Shield Block in rage starving situations. Once you gear yourself enough, you could look at a Devastator in pure single target situations, which you will only find in raids, to be honest. Couple Devastator with a Reckless Flurry Azerite trait that, yes, can only be selected while in Fury spec, and you will do considerably more damage. However, choosing this playstyle has to be something you and your group are aware of and need, and this usually happens when your survivability is no longer an issue, so keep that in mind. And lastly, Anger Management is the only one you should get here. Anger Management works amazing for you, since it reduces the cooldown on Last Stand, which you already couple it with Bolster, as well as Demo Shout, which you already have it synergized with Booming Voice, and Shield Wall, the quintessential defensive cooldown from which all other defensives in the game have been based off. Need I say more? Getting this talent provides you with the unique ability of having your major defensives a few times between each boss depending on the length of the fight. No other tank has this luxury, which is why, in my opinion, Prot Warrior reigns supreme in the meta. All of these talents apply to both dungeons and raids, by the way, so you don't have to worry about swapping them ever. When it comes to stats, you kind of want to have a bit of everything, and realistically you will always end up in that scenario since there is no way to gear yourself towards only one secondary stat. But there is a default priority list for stats which you can use as a point of reference when gearing up. Haste is at the top, followed by versatility, mastery, crit, strength, and armor. I mentioned haste for our first row and how important it is, so I'll take this opportunity to hopefully give you a better understanding of what it does for your Prot Warrior. Don't be alarmed, I won't be going into the world of the maths. Haste reduces the cooldown of Shield Block, Revenge, Shield Slam, and Thunderclap first and foremost. Clearly, Shield Block will be the most important one to have its cooldown reduced, and so far, with all of the theory crafting the warrior community has done, there is no real cap on haste. That doesn't mean you can go bananas, sack all logic, and get only haste. That just means that following human reasoning, you never want to sack haste for eye level or any other stat that is more numerically bigger than haste. Haste has another function as well, in that it speeds up your auto attacks, giving you more rage generation. More rage generation with shorter cooldowns means you will bake in more abilities within the same time frame, translating into more damage and more tankiness. Having a lot of haste is also what makes Devastator a better talent, since the Shield Slam resets become more frequent, again translating into more rage and more damage. Versatility is a stat that defines itself, simply from its name. You get damage reduction, you deal more damage, and yeah, you heal more, which applies to Ignore Pain shields. Outside sponge-like soaking abilities like Ignore Pain and Spell Reflection, Prot Warrior doesn't have anything to deal with magic, and on this topic, most tanks don't either. Therefore, versatility becomes a much bigger asset since the damage reduction applies to all sources, magic included. As an example, I've been chasing haste in a tunnel vision manner for a few weeks now, completely ignoring versatility, and let me tell you, when a spell hits me, it hits me hard. Well, anything outside me shielding me chunks for a large amount, and lo and behold, my versatility is my smallest stat. Let's talk about mastery and block. Blocking means reducing the damage a blockable attack deals to you by a certain amount. The more block you have as a stat, the more the damage is being reduced. Mastery complements this by giving us a higher chance to actually be able to block an attack, at the same time with giving you a chance to critically block, meaning blocking double the amount. To understand block and tank damage in general, let's take a look at an overall report of damage taken by a Prot Warrior in Battle for the Zara lore. This log is taken from Warcraft logs from one of the highest mythic tanks. You can clearly see, without a shadow of a doubt, that melee damage reigns supreme. In conclusion, how important is blocking? Very. On top of this, mastery gives us more attack power as well. Crit is a twofold stat. It gives us crit chance, meaning more damage, but it also gives us parry chance. Parrying negates the damage completely from the respective attack, but it's also a bit unreliable. And now you would say that block also has a chance to proc, making it unreliable. Yes, outside shield block and last stand. But remember that when shit hits the fan, the proc chance doesn't save you. The ability giving you 100% block chance, regardless of gear, does. Armor is a simple stat. It reduces physical damage taken. We have it on all RPGs, so nothing new here. Last but not least, strength has a few functions you should be aware of as well. The most obvious one is that it increases the magnitude of our attacks, to use the tooltip's wording. It also increases parry chance. And while propelled warriors back in the meta, one of the factors at least, is our passive Vanguard. Vanguard increases our stamina and armor based off of how much strength we have. It's good to mitigate damage, but you will never be able to mitigate all of it, and there will always be damage that you cannot mitigate. From this concept spans the idea of health acting as a sponge to soak damage. Prot warriors don't have the most health out of all the tanks, but even so, strength has a welcomed impact for you since it's not just a damage contributor now. With all of these stats in mind, you should now have a better understanding of how to gear your Prot warrior, especially when it comes to trinkets. I will still talk about a few of them, of course, but the ones you choose are up to you and the holy gods of RNG, employed by the almighty Ian for however long he has his job. Just kidding, Ian. Sarcasm is how we nerds stay alive in society.
There's, the potential for a lot of pretty bad feeling if you get bracers 3 weeks in a row.
All of this information stems from research I did on the details posted by the Prot Warrior community leaders and other people from the Skyhold Discord channel, as well as what I have observed on Warcraft logs about the top Prot Warriors in the world. I most definitely haven't looted all the good trinkets for tanks, much less had a hand-on testing session with them, so I would recommend trying them out yourself, if you have them, or simply rely on much better theory crafters and trust in their judgment, which I do. The overall most used and best in slot trinket, which I still haven't gotten, is Vial of Animated Blood. That drops from Underrot, and just from its tooltip it requires no explanation. It functions as an on-demand cooldown, giving you a crap ton of strength, and yes, that is exactly how much strength it gives. The Rage trinket from Mechatork and Rizan's Gleaming Eye, essentially haste trinkets, work amazing in raids because the rage generation is a bigger concern on single target fights as opposed to the constant AoE pools you have in dungeons. Specifically because raids also have tank swapping, and by default you will be missing the rage gained by getting smashed in the face. Dungeons, however, have a much larger range of options, although most of the trinkets used are also taken from the raid builds. The Diamond trinket from Opulence is good, especially for the example I gave you earlier about my versatility situation, which is not what you want. The trinket though, Another good choice comes from Waycrest Manor in the forms of the Gore-Crusted Butcher's block that boosts crits. Keep in mind that min-maxing is something you should think of once you've hit a personal wall and if you aim to clear high-end content. For all other situations, you can mix and match these trinkets since Prot Warriors welcome any and all stats. There have been some tests done with the new trinkets and gear in Crucible. The maths for them is amazing, making them very good, however the usage is niche, and I haven't personally tested them, but go ahead and let me know how they work for you. And finally, for this section, we have the traits. Bastion of Might remains the king, and you want to stack this as many times as you can, and this works in all types of content. The trait essentially gives you a massive mastery buff once you pop Avatar, as well as an ignore pain shield. This makes Avatar an actual defensive cooldown as well as an offensive one, synergizing amazingly with the fact that you will reduce its cooldown with anger management and making it a viable button to press on cooldown. Deafening Crash is a 1-point wonder trait, but I am seeing people stack it as well. The damage stacks of course, but the duration extension does not. I personally prefer traits a bit more tanky, but hey, I'm still missing a ton of versatility. The reason this trait is good is that it extends Demo Shot by 2 seconds up to a maximum of 6 seconds. Extending Demo Shot with Booming Voice baked in boosts your damage considerably, and let's not forget, Avatar will reduce its cooldown by 50% as well. Thunderclap's cooldown, of course. Now you should start to see how all of these little things start synergizing into a marvelous pizza. What? I love pizza. It has a lot of stuff on it and it's delicious. It's a great metaphor. What do you want from me? No pineapple, please. From here on, you can start to diversify a bit. If you want more damage, fill in the rest of the slots with Treacherous Covenant. Strength does contribute to tankiness as well, of course. But keep in mind that Treacherous Covenant will work better in raids, since there the encounters are more controlled than in dungeons. If you want to be more tanky, you can look at filling in the extra slots with any of the following traits as you get them, since RNG won't permit us too much freedom in this sense. Brace for Impact is a solid one and works best in single target situations. More block and more damage, what's not to love? Arrow Fortress is again a solid choice. Works best in AoE and also if you have a decent amount of mastery equipped. When you block an attack, it deals damage to attackers, meaning you can pop a shield block, reduce the damage you take, and increase your overall threat generation. Lastly, I mentioned Bloodsport earlier, a trait that boosts your ignore pain and gives you some leech, which is always nice. This trait also performs mathematically better in AoE since the leech return based on damage taken is better in AoE due to how block and parry function. Also, an honorable mention for any Mavericks out there, and I'm saying this because I found it hilarious. Reckless Flurry is a fury trait that works for protection as well. Clearly, you'll be using only the extra damage on auto attacks, but couple this with a big haste base and Devastator and you'll gain substantial single target damage. This is mainly used in raids by the way, but if you're looking for something fun yet still weirdly viable, try this out and knock yourself out. Here is also a quick rundown on the secondary traits. Tier 2, Life Speed and Earthlink perform well. Life Speed should be pretty clear, Haste and Avoidance are very good, while Earthlink is just a strength boost. For Tier 3, Impassive Visage works well, especially with more versatility, and one of my favorites, Moment of Glory buffs Rallying Cry and can save your party in a lot of situations, or relieve some pressure off of your healers, which is always nice since Prot Warrior doesn't have that much group utility. But as a general note, you can use any defensive secondaries or stat giving secondaries as you see fit to complement your kit. The rotation isn't something special and not an actual rotation, but more of a priority system. There are two aspects of your rotation that I believe you should keep in mind. The build-up part of your rotation where you build rage and threat, and the mitigation part where you are focused on reducing the damage you take. The priority for this is Shield Slam, always followed by Thunderclap, Revenge only if it's free, and fill in with Devastate. Remember that Shield Slam's cooldown can be reset by Devastate, Thunderclap and Revenge. As you do damage, you build Rage and Threat. Threat is important, and you feel this more on skittish weeks where every bit of damage you do can be the point that keeps the mob on you, considering you are running with equally or maybe better geared people. Even if tankiness is your goal, do not forsake or underestimate the damage that you can do, with the meta being so favorable towards damage dealing group members. When spending the rage, you want shield block to be up at as many crucial moments as possible. You won't have it up 100% of the time, so a knowledge of the fight and/or good add-ons will help you with this. Ignore Pain will be your main rage spender, as long as you won't dip too low and not be able to use shield block when it comes to rage pools. When you struggle with aggro or you have so much rage that your Ignore Pain isn't depleted fast enough, you can start weaving in revenges even when they are not free. In AoE situations, Thunderclap will become the most important spell, followed by Revenge, while still respecting the guidelines mentioned before. After that, Shield Slam, and lastly Devastate as a filler. As far as the opener is concerned, you need to keep in mind how much rage you have. If you charge in, you'll have enough to cast an initial shield block before setting yourself up for your proper rotation. Therefore, you start by popping Avatar, charging and taunting shortly after since you can taunt mid-charge, shield block quickly so you don't take spiky damage, and follow it up with Shield Slam and Demo Shout. Depending on the encounter, you can pop Avatar after charging as well. Popping it before gives you the option to use your first GCD on shield block, which is safer. But at higher levels, especially with 3 Bastion of Might traits, your Ignore Pain procced from Avatar should be sufficient to keep you alive until you end up pressing that sweet shield block button. If you have Avatar up, your rotation changes a bit in that you want to use Thunderclap every other GCD, since the cooldown reduction it has will allow you to do so. Not to mention this will give you a crazy damage output. A quick mention of Deep Wounds here before we move forward. This is just a damage passive, which is actually a big contributor to your overall damage. What's important about this one is that it's applied only by Devastate and Revenge. As such, in AoE, you always want to find the chance to smash a Revenge as soon as possible, which is not very hard, admittedly. and in single target, devastate as often as you can, of course. We talked quite a bit about stats earlier in the video, and that alone should be sufficient to let you know what consumables you want to use. But if you want to be a lazy bastard, get haste for rings and gems, finishing up with the quick navigation enchant for your weapon. My advice though is to keep an eye on your stat distribution and try to complement one of your lower stats if the difference is too high. And for the food, take the feast. Haste is top on the list, but 100 strength will always be better than 70 haste, since the priority list assumes a one-on-one point comparison. But hey, if you lack the feast, you can definitely use the cheaper haste food as a replacement. On the potion side, for the flask and battle potion, keep the strength versions, clearly. Since strength contributes to Vanguard, you can also consider them defensive potions. Today's video went a little bit more in depth about Protection Warrior, and if you also like tanking on other classes, you should check our Protection Paladin guide, made by the lovely Marcelian. Yes, I am now Marcelian.
Hello darkness, my old friend.
Shout out to the Skyhole Discord channel for posting a lot of really cool information about Protection Warriors. Another shout out goes to our patrons who continuously support us through thick and thin. We love you and appreciate you guys. And if you also want to become one of our Patreon, links down in the description so you can go check it out and be a part of our team. Thanks for watching the video and being awesome. See you next time.